This tiny computer right here had just 4 kilobytes of RAM. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 2 million times less memory than the smartphone you're using to watch this right now. You can't load a single low-quality photo with 4 kilobytes. You can't even send a modern emoji. And yet, these 4,080 bytes of code were enough to cross 384,400 kilometers of empty space, to navigate through a vacuum, survive radiation, and land humans on a world that wasn't ours. So why is it that we went from conquering the moon with pocket calculator tech to not going back for over 50 years? Why did the greatest leap in human history suddenly just stop? We didn't lose the technology. The answer is far more complicated than that. And it started not with the moon, but with fear.
In 1957, the Soviet Union launched a small metal ball into orbit, and all it did was just beep. That's it. But then just 4 years later, they went way further. In 1961, a Soviet pilot named Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. America had no answer. NASA's own rockets were failing on live television. So Kennedy made a decision.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Not a scientific one, a political one. He stood up and promised the world, America will land a man on the moon before the end of the decade. No plan, no rocket, no guarantee it was survivable. Just a promise. Because the moon was never really about the moon. It was about proving to the whole world that America wasn't losing. And so they had to actually do it. But here's the part nobody talks about. The moment they succeeded is also the moment everything started to fall apart. July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon. 600 million people watched, roughly 1 in every 3 humans alive at that time. It is still one of the most watched moments in history. And then they went back, 5 more times. The last mission was December 1972. And then, nothing. For over 50 years. So what happened? The reason is almost boring. The race was over. The whole point was to beat the Soviets, and once that was done, the story was done. Without competition, the public stopped caring. TV networks were cutting moon mission coverage early because ratings were low. Nobody was watching. And when nobody's watching, spending becomes very hard to defend. The Apollo program cost around $25 billion, roughly $280 billion in today's money, about 4% of the entire US government budget at its peak. That kind of money needs a reason, and by 1972, the reason was gone. So they stopped. No big announcement, no drama. They just quietly closed the door. But here's what makes this story stranger than it sounds. Closing that door didn't just pause the moon program, it started erasing it. Now here's something people say all the time online. NASA lost the technology to go to the moon. And look, I get why it sounds crazy. How do you lose something you already did? But here's what actually happened. The blueprints still exist. That's not the problem. The problem is the people who built the thing are gone. The engineers who knew how to manufacture certain parts, not from a manual, but from years of doing it with their own hands, they retired. Some passed away. The factories closed. The suppliers shut down. When NASA actually went back to look at old Apollo parts in storage, some had broken down, others were just missing, and some couldn't even be tested anymore because the machines used to test them didn't exist either. So yes, in a way, the knowledge was lost, but not by accident. After Apollo, the money got cut. Engineers moved to new projects, the space shuttle, the space station. Year after year, the moon kept getting pushed down the list. Not one big decision, just a lot of small ones. And by the time anyone looked up, decades had passed, and the people who really knew how to do it were gone. You stop practicing something long enough, you lose it. That's true for people. Turns out it's true for entire space programs too. But okay, so we forgot how. That still leaves a question. Was the moon even worth going back to? For a long time, honestly, the answer felt like no. It's just rock and dust, no air. Nothing lives there. What's the point? That changed in 2009. NASA sent a small probe and crashed it into the moon's south pole on purpose, just to see what kicked up. Inside the dust cloud, water. frozen water sitting inside craters that never see sunlight. Now, why does that matter? Water can be split into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen burns as rocket fuel. Oxygen is air to breathe. So the moon could work as a fuel stop, a base where spacecraft heading to Mars or beyond can top up, instead of carrying everything from Earth. Think of it like this. Getting off Earth is the hardest, most expensive part of any space trip because of how strong Earth's gravity is. The moon's gravity is much weaker. Launching from there costs a fraction of what it costs from here. That one fact changes how the whole solar system is reachable. And then there's something even more valuable. The moon has no magnetic field, which means for billions of years, the solar wind has been blowing straight into the lunar surface and depositing a rare gas called helium-3 directly into the soil. Helium-3 barely exists on Earth, but on the moon, it's been collecting for longer than life has existed on our planet. Here's why that matters. In mid-2025, the US Department of Energy made history. They purchased 3 liters of lunar helium-3, the first government purchase of an extraterrestrial resource ever. And just weeks later, a company called Interloon signed a $300 million deal to supply it commercially. Because helium-3 could fuel a new generation of clean fusion reactors, producing energy without the dangerous radioactive waste of traditional nuclear power. NASA's own administrator put it plainly, there is helium-3 on the moon, certainly more than there is here on Earth, and it is predicted to be a more efficient source of fusion power. The amount sitting on the lunar surface could theoretically power the entire Earth for thousands of years. So no, the moon is not just a dead rock, and now other countries are starting to figure that out too. Right now, 3 serious players are racing back to the moon, and just 2 weeks ago, one of them made history. On April 1st, 2026, NASA launched Artemis II. 4 astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, lifted off from Kennedy Space Center aboard the most powerful rocket built since the Saturn V. Their spacecraft, which the crew named Integrity, carried them farther from Earth than any human has traveled in over 50 years. On April 6th, they swung around the far side of the moon, coming within 4,000 miles of the surface. And at that moment, they broke the record set by the Apollo 13 crew in 1970 for the farthest humans have ever traveled from Earth. Standing at that distance, astronaut Jeremy Hansen looked back and said they chose that moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure that record is not long-lived. They splashed down safely 10 days after launch, but Artemis II wasn't a landing. It was a test, a proof that modern humans can survive in deep space, that the systems work, that the path to the moon is open again. The actual landing is now planned for Artemis IV, targeted for 2028, and after that, NASA isn't planning to leave. The goal, for the first time in history, is a permanent base on the lunar surface, not a visit, a home. Then there's SpaceX. Elon Musk's company is building a rocket called Starship, the biggest ever made, taller than the Saturn V. Because it's a private company, it doesn't have to wait for government approval at every step. It moves faster. The moon is just the beginning for them. Mars is where they actually want to go. And then there's China. They've already landed rovers on the far side of the moon, something no other country had done before. They're targeting a crewed moon landing by 2030. Together with Russia, they've announced plans to build a permanent base at the lunar South Pole, and a lot of analysts think they might actually hit that date. So we have 2 world powers, both pointed at the moon, both with real reasons to get there first. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's the same race as 1957, same stakes, different flags, except this time it's not just about pride. There are actual resources up there, actual territory, actual trillions of dollars waiting in the soil. Half of all 450 lunar missions planned through 2033 are commercial, expected to generate over $150 billion in revenue. Whoever gets there first gets to decide how it gets used. That changes what the moon means. Which brings us back to where this whole story started. So, why did we stop going to the moon? We went because of a political race, not a scientific one. We stopped the moment that race was over. We slowly lost the ability to go back, not through one mistake, but through 50 years of not caring enough to keep the knowledge alive. And now we're going back. Not because we suddenly love space more, but because the race started again, and this time, the prize is bigger. Gene Cernan was the last person to stand on the moon, December 1972. He spent the rest of his life saying he hoped someone else would go back.
He died in 2017. Nobody had gone back yet. But just 2 weeks ago, 4 humans swung around that same moon, looked down at its surface, and told the rest of us, don't let this record stand for long. The question was never really, can we go to the moon? We answered that in 1969 with a computer smaller than your phone. The question was always, do we want to badly enough? 50 years ago, fear was enough to get us there. Now, there's water in the soil, helium in the dust, and 2 superpowers racing for the same crater. Let's see what it takes this time.